Amy, can you talk a little bit about your initial surgery and what your experience was?
Yeah, initially I went to my doctor because I was having problems with my bowel movements, constipation, and I had a sense of pelvic heaviness, and I was told I had a drop bladder, and I needed a rectosil repair and a hysterectomy. And so, because of the discomfort, I thought I would go ahead with it. And then immediately following the surgery, I was in the most horrible pain I've ever experienced, and I knew something was really wrong, and I couldn't urinate, I couldn't empty my bladder, ended up in the ER with urinary retention after I was discharged. And so after months and months of self-catheterizations and other more conservative methods to try to get me to urinate, I finally was able to empty my bladder, if I folded over and kind of sat in a weird position on the toilet, and my pain was starting to improve. So I lived with it for a good almost 3 years, and then the pain just started to kind of crescendo and grow, and then by 2010 I was miserable and inconsolable pain. At one point I finally ended up in the ER after expressing a desire to end my life just to escape the pain. And then I eventually found someone who could remove the TVT laparoscopically, and thankfully I'm at least 80 to 90% better since that time.
And the vaginal mesh that was implanted during that initial surgery, what were you told about possible complications?
Actually, the only really complication I was told about was that there's swelling sometimes after surgery, and maybe for 1 or 2 days you might have to have a catheter to empty your bladder, and that was about it.
And subsequent to all this, you've done a lot of research, and
Right, yeah, and it's kind of staggering. If I knew 1/10 of the information that was out there published in the literature concerning mesh complications and mesh reactions, transvaginal mesh reactions, I would have never consented to this surgery.